Bree in Iowa.
All right.
Bree, welcome back to the show.
Hi.
So, I wanted to talk a little bit about what V was saying earlier about reparations and skepticism.
All right, call me on my shit.
Zoom in on V.
Not necessarily reparations, but more education specifically.
Absolutely. What are your thoughts?
For the record, I do support reparations. Just full stop. So I know this is not necessarily a universal experience, but for me in particular, when I was working 2 full-time jobs and getting about an average of 3 hours of sleep a night, I was desperate for anything that I could do in short little bursts that was not work, and and so I started watching the news.
Nice.
And so for the first time I was paying attention to the news, I started engaging in online debates and stuff on social media. And that, more than anything, led to me becoming a skeptic and an atheist.
That's awesome.
And I think based on what I've seen from a lot of people, that's not a unique experience. So I think the sort of, well, you're fighting for survival, so you don't have time to think about things in the society around you is a misnomer, and it's kind of demeaning, in my opinion.
That is absolutely fair. I know that. I'm not going to throw you under the bus, but I'm pretty sure that was a point you made. But
yes, that was a point
I think the thing that I want to affirm right here is that there is absolutely no direct universal forever tie between things like going to college and being a skeptic. I know very many people who went to college and are still as deep in it as possible, maybe even more so. So certainly not saying that one is always corollary to the other. One always correlates. But I do think that I should have phrased the reparations thing a little bit differently on hindsight, which would be if you are for increased skepticism across the U.S., you should also be for reparations. Not necessarily that one will always lead to the other, or that it even should, or that should be the reasoning behind being for reparations. But I do think that if your goal is to increase skepticism and availability of any kind of education, then you should be for reparations as well. But Eric, what are your thoughts on the whole tying education and the ability to be, have that quote unquote higher level of Maslow's hierarchy of needs met to be skeptical?
Sure, absolutely. I think you can reach the top level of Maslow's hierarchy and be a religious person. I think you can reach self-actualization, and there are many PhD Christians and Muslims who are obviously very content in who they are and what they understand about the world around them and who they are in it. So that said, I totally get that. And Bree, thank you for calling me out on it. When I thought about it, I thought, what has gotten in the way of my life, and when was I able to really engage with these things in a way that could get me there? And that's what I jumped to. But you're absolutely right, and I was wrong, and I don't want to give any other justification. I was wrong on that. The response, the answer that you get to doesn't involve education, doesn't really involve stability in your life. I do though recognize a positive correlation when those things are present. And so I'd love to see how those things interact, because I'm not going to sit here and blow smoke up your butt and tell you that, rich white people being overrepresented in the atheist community has nothing to do with them being rich or white. But
or that being rich and white automatically makes you an atheist, because that's not true.
No. That is the other way around. No. But there is a very large section, right? I think the largest group of way that you can group atheists is like that, wealthy and white. So while that's not always the case, I think there's room to push back, but I think that I would be talking out of my butt if I did that right now. I need to think about it, and I should have a more strongly founded understanding before I respond.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, and it's also, there's also the degree of who feels the most secure to be outspoken about literally anything, and that's your rich white people. Because they don't have to worry about, pushback from their community very much.
Right, exactly. Well, that gets into intersectionality as well, right? Like, how much are you putting on the table? How much are you risking by taking on all of these different marginalized identities? Some, that you can't hide or pass with, and some that you can. I know that if I was living with the people I grew up with, and they were still very Christian, and I was dependent on them, I wouldn't come out as fucking anything. I'd be like, I'm just gonna sit here and pretend like I like baking. I do like baking, but you know what I mean. Like, I would just sit there and pretend like I fit in, because the pressure to do so is so much greater when you are in a position of less privilege. So yeah, fully agree with that.
Yeah, I was talking in the chat with someone about, because they were very confused as to why you don't just push people out of your lives that are toxic or whatever, and I was like, well, what if you depend on them?
Yeah.
You have to keep quiet, and your best hope at survival in those situations is to just not draw attention to yourself. And that's true with religion and politics and just about every facet of life.
Yeah, you can have a boss that is absolutely the worst. It doesn't mean that you don't necessarily have the privilege of being able to quit your job because your boss is terrible. I grew up in a household with a narcissist. And
me too.
Yeah. And you're right. You develop those skills. I think other skills that fall into that are being able to recognize where you are in the environment, the impact that you have, and how much attention you're drawing to yourself. And you know what? For all of the trouble, it's been a really good tool that I'm glad that I have. So at least I got that out of it.
Yay! Yeah. Bright side of things, silver lining.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for calling us on our shit, Bree. That's what we want. We want people to call and be like, "Hey, I'm pushing back on this thing," and absolutely willing to rephrase or take back or do some more thinking about it.
I honestly, it's the only way we're going to be able to do this kind of show. It's live. We're thinking on our feet. We have no idea who's going to call in next, and if we screw up, and then we try and double down, it is never
not going to work well. So call us on our shit. Call in, give us a super chat yelling at us, leave a comment, write an email. We will make sure we're always doing better.
Yeah, we're going to hold ourselves accountable, and we at least want to lead by example on that one.
Yeah.
Bree, thank you.
Yep. All right. Thanks for taking my call.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, so I had a manager back before COVID times. It was remote, and every single time we would leave a one-on-one conversation, the way she would sign off, she would have this little before the bye. She's like, bye. And I took it on. I don't know why, but it imprinted on me so hard. And so every time I do that, I'm like, cheers, Sarah. I appreciate you.
Oh, funny. And inside your head is, bye.
Bye.
Okay.
Yep.